science. So science is the atheist weapon. It's our God killer. It's the greatest tool humanity has ever invented, bar none. It's taken us from a hodgepodge of bickering near savages living in the mud and dying young of disease and childbirth and starvation and sword pokes into a hodgepodge of bickering near savages who sometimes walk on the moon, who sometimes cure diseases, who live twice as long as our predecessors, who can look deep into cells of far out distant galaxies. It has given us great power to accomplish marvelous things, or to screw up the whole planet. Science also has the power to transform our sense of identity. Some of us, many of us in this room, are no longer people of the Word, members of that special tribe bound together by narratives and rules and quaint old books. We instead have become the people of reality. We are united by common knowledge, by a sense of universality, and by our commitment to evidence. Personally, I find no sense of myself in the Judeo-Christian fairy tales that I was brought up with at all. They're too narrow. They're too bigoted. They're really too false. There is no truth in them. The words of my people, and I count many of you as among my people, are written in the strands of DNA that I find in every cell in my body. And the story they tell is clear and inspiring. We are all products of the natural world. Stars died to create the elements we are made of, and 4 billion years of churning life struggled and was born and died to shape us. We are close kin to every single human being on the planet, without exception. There is no tribe that is outside our family. And even deeper, we're related to every living thing on Earth. You simply cannot get any more universal than the scientific story of life. I take far greater pride in the accomplishments of science than I do the accomplishments of my ethnic group, or my place in Western culture, or my particular ruling form of government, or least of all, the church I was brought up in. Science bridges the differences between all of us. I can find common ground with American scientists, Canadian scientists, Mexican scientists, Chinese scientists, Iranian scientists, Israeli scientists, you name it. If they're a scientist, we speak the same language. We share similar ideals and goals. Now, maybe some of you here aren't scientists, strictly speaking, but you've read the latest book by Dawkins or Hawking, or you love Richard Attenborough's TV shows, or you're a bird watcher, or you like taking hikes in the mountain meadows of the Wasatch. You are all my people. That's all it takes. We're one, united in an appreciation of the natural world. Now, there's another reason I can take pride in science, and that is that science has real power. Science actually works, unlike religion. But maybe I should take a moment and just tell you how I define science. What I have as a definition for science is a fairly broad and inclusive version of science. And some of you may say that you're scientists after all, because you accept this already. Science is simply the process that does its damnedest to figure out how stuff actually works, rather than how we wished it worked. For instance, you know, I kind of wish that peach pits actually cured cancer. But I think it's important to do the experiments and measure the results and see if they really do. Because if they don't, I think it would be a good idea for people to move on to more effective treatments. That's science. Here's another example. You know, when I'm shopping for a used car, I kind of wish that really sweet, cherry, shiny sports car, you know, the two-seater that I'm supposed to get at my age. I look so good in it, and the seller is selling it for cheap. I really wish that that was the car I would buy, and that it had a smoothly functioning engine and a trouble-free transmission. But, you know, I would still take it on a test drive. I would take it to a mechanic for inspection before I put any money into it. That's doing the damnedest not to fool myself. That's what science is all about. I don't want to be fooled. I want to take things apart and figure them out and make sure it's all going to work smoothly. And you know, another example, my ancestors probably wish that shaman's magic talisman kept tigers away, but he probably trusted more in a fire and the palisade around his camp and the spear that was close to hand. You don't give up on those things, even if you've got a little faint hope that this magic thing would work. We've been scientists for all of our history. We've been tool-using technological people. And to do that, you can't rely on faith. The real power of science comes beyond that immediate effect, though. Sure, yeah, you're going to use reasonable, rational, objective views to pick out that sports car. But it turns out that if you're disciplined and careful in all aspects of your life, if you reject ideas based on superstition, revelation, and tradition, and actually require confirmable evidence for any suppositions about even mundane things, you find yourself on good, solid, stable ground. You can rely on your position. You can trust that you are operating from a sound position. And then what you can do is you can ask even deeper questions. You can plumb nature farther once you're on solid ground. And that's what we've been doing. Before you know it, you find yourself in possession of a strong chain of evidence that leads you to answers about the fundamental nature of the universe. I know it's a long way to go from the spear to the sports car, but yes, it works. We know so much about how the universe works, and it's all incremental, step by step, building progressively on the solid foundations that we establish using reason and evidence. And that's real power. Now, when theologians argue, they try to resolve differences by turning to murky sources remote from anything fundamental. They open their holy texts, they cite fellow theologians, they try to reinterpret words that have been reinterpreted many times before. But have you ever heard scientists argue? They do it all the time. In fact, living as a scientist is practically one long argument, day after day after day. But they don't resolve issues by simply appealing to higher authorities. They don't usually argue that, oh, well, Mario Capecchi said it, that settles it, we're done, right? Yes, I notice you've got a road named after him now, that's pretty nice. But that doesn't confer him special authority. And justifications. If you simply assert your desired conclusion and ignore the fact that reality is rarely about the answer you want, you're an enemy of science. Truth is often uncomfortable. You have to value it because it's true, not because it makes you feel good. If you can't do that, you're not a scientist, and I would say you're not a good atheist either. The clearest examples of the dangers of religious thinking can be found in issues of science policy. Questions about the environment, for instance, ought to be resolved by careful examination of the evidence and by weighing the costs and benefits of proposed solutions. All that good, rational stuff, right? That's what you and I would do. That's how reasonable people operate. Not James Inhofe. Not John Shimkus. These are some of our representatives who have influence on energy and environmental policy, who endorse the green dragon philosophy and actively deny the evidence of the world around us. Has anybody heard of the green dragon before? Oh, it's one of those little dog whistle words. It's an important word in certain communities of religious thought. So I'll tell you what it is. Here's a statement from one of its proponents. The green dragon is environmentalism. So here's what they say about it. Around the world, environmentalism has become an unbalanced, radical movement, something we call the green dragon. And it is deadly. Deadly to human prosperity, deadly to human life, deadly to human freedom, and most importantly, deadly to the gospel of Jesus Christ. Make no mistake about it, environmentalism is no longer your friend, it is your enemy. And the battle is not primarily political or material, it is spiritual. It's always spiritual. I wish I just continue fighting on a spiritual plane and leave the politics to alone. Because as Christians, we must actively trust God and obey His word. So when it comes to environmental stewardship, we must reject the false worldview, the faulty science, that is the actual science, and the counterfeit gospel that threatens to corrupt society and the church, which in their minds are both the same things anyway. Now, both Inhofe and Shimkus have come out with unbelievably clear statements about this. They're sitting on various committees. They're making decisions about laws and regulations and long-term policies for our country. But they say we don't have to worry about climate change or global warming or CO2. And why? The answer is simple. Because in the Bible, God said we don't have to worry about a flood anymore. He promised. God promised it wouldn't happen. So yeah, don't worry about it. It's all in the Bible. That's their answer. Let's forget the science, ignore the science. Here's my Bible book. This is all you need to know to make decisions about environmental policy. This is literally what they have said. This is literally their assertion. And furthermore, they have another reason. You see, God is going to end the world soon, so it's out of our hands. Good news, the world is going to end. Hey, okay, we don't have to do anything. Yeah, the Republicans can keep making money building coal power plants because, so what if they poison the planet? It's going to end anyway. God's going to clear it all out. It's the end times, don't you know? Would you believe that in a recent Pew survey, 40% of Americans believe that Jesus is finally going to get around to fulfilling that promise he made 2,000 years ago of global death and judgment, and it's going to happen in our lifetimes. Aren't we lucky? Yeah, and here's the creepy thing about it. Those affirmative respondents all think that, yes, we are lucky. Hooray for Armageddon and hooray for the apocalypse. Bring on famine, war, plague, and death. It's all good times coming. The demented ghouls of the end times are out there. They're actually a significant political lobby, fighting, for instance, to support Israel, no matter what. And why? It's not because they respect the right of the Jewish people to exist in their own homeland. No, that's not it at all. It's because they have a prophecy in the book of Revelation that the Jewish state must be restored as a step in the fulfillment of that prophecy. It has to be restored in order that it can be destroyed. They speculate that this will be in a nuclear holocaust, which will be a good thing, right? After which there will be another good thing in that all the surviving Jews will convert to Christianity, and that will be a sign that Jesus is about to come. So that's why they're maintaining Israel. It's not because they actually respect the right of the Jewish people to autonomy. It's because they're waiting for the bombs to fall and kill them all, and for the rest to adopt our Christian faith. If you don't believe me, you can find this all out. Go read the Left Behind books. It's all in there. There are people who literally take the Left Behind books as biblical prophecy, things that have to be fulfilled. So it must be true. And it's just weird. You know, if a scientist saw an example of a cataclysm that was going to hit us in 2050, for example, imagine an astronomer is looking up there and he sees a meteor on course, and they plot it out and they figure out, oh, it's going to hit the Earth in 2050. They wouldn't be saying, hallelujah, physics works. Let's all get together on 2050 and celebrate Math Day because it will be a triumph when the meteor destroys us. No, we'd be trying to stop it, right? That's what we would be doing. And that makes the Christian reaction even more puzzling. You know, if I actually believe that Jesus is coming to the end of the world, I'd be preparing. I'd be stocking up on timber and nails. It works the last time, right? Now, you know, I don't know who's in this audience. some of you might be feeling some objection.